This is Swim Success with Music.
Yo, what's going on, people? This is Success with Music. This is Walt. I am your music coach. And in this case, your world traveler, you're not too good at the native language haggler. Yo, let's dive in. Again, this is Success with Music. I am Walt, your music coach. And for those of you who tune in regularly, if you can't tell, the audio is just a bit different because I am actually recording outside of the studio today. I'm actually walking around on a large hill in a large yard in a country called Lesotho. This is actually located in South Africa. And for those of you that don't know, Lesotho is actually a sovereign country within another country. So in other words, this country is surrounded 360 degrees by another sovereign country, which is South Africa. So a little trivia for you today. But I wanted to make sure I got out here and gave you a bit of some music knowledge here just before the new year comes around. So if you can, just bear with the sound. You may hear some birds chirping in the background and folks doing various things here in the area where I am. But yeah, man, I want to go ahead and just give you some knowledge and some thoughts about this coming year. So I want to talk about motivation, setting some goals for the new year and what have you. All right, so if you think about it, 2018 is just around the corner. And for us, man, we've been celebrating the holidays and getting together with people. And for me today, I'm actually out here traveling, seeing some family and doing some sightseeing and having a good time here over the holidays. But a lot of times we start to think about the coming year, goals we want to set, life, music, etc. And I just want to talk about having a strategy for the coming year for your music. So I want to get into some things that will be helpful for setting goals musically in the coming year. All right, so as I said, 2018 is going to drop and everyone, as you can imagine, will be hitting the gym really hard. Everyone will be trying to eat right and try to focus, in our case, on chasing that music game and just pushing our music careers just a bit further. But here's the thing, though. Inspiration typically dies pretty quickly. So if you think about the gym, or if you've ever set goals at the beginning of a year, like, you know what, this year I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to get diesel, I'm going to work out, what have you, we start off really, really strong. Same thing with music. You think, hey, this year I'm going to blow up, I'm going to take it to the next level. And a lot of times what happens is that dream dies, I don't know, somewhere like in March or what have you, or February, who knows? Hopefully it's not in January. But nonetheless, we sometimes just get off our game as the year comes about. I'm not trying to discourage you in making your music goals for the coming year, but I want to talk about the reality of losing inspiration after the new year drops, and I don't want you to do that. So for today's episode, I'm going to give you just a few common sense strategies about the coming year and how you can push your music dream to the next level. And I want you to stick with me because some of this stuff will sound like really common sense advice, but I really believe that if you take this common sense advice and put it into practice, take it to heart, you really will see actual results for your music career, no matter what area of music you happen to be involved with, whether it be making music or making beats, I should say, or singing, performance, maybe getting a record deal, maybe, acquiring some new fans, maybe, putting your first video out. I don't know. But the point is, I want to give you a few things that will really help you to get to that point or that place. All right. So here's the first thing. The first thing that I highly recommend, and this may sound a little cheesy, but I really believe is very effective, is you need to write out your big goal for the year. Literally grab, your phone, grab a piece of paper, I don't know, maybe a Post-it note or some type of card or what have you, and write down the large goal for the year and try to make it realistic. If you're, I don't know, making $2 an hour right now and you're saying, hey, by the end of the year, I want to be a millionaire. Yes, you can do that. That can happen. But if you create such a huge goal, it may be deflating to you if you don't start to see it, let's say in February or March. And that's why people sometimes just stop going after their dreams. So write down your goal this year. Make it a big goal, but don't make it like a supersized, ridiculous, crazy goal that you will never, ever meet in any world. All right. So just make it very simple. Give yourself a big thing that you try to push towards. Let's say you want to, release a single this year, or hey, you want to actually start touring this year, or you want to get lessons this year, whatever it may be. Put that thing down, write it down. Don't worry about how you're going to get there right now, but just talk about the large goal, as I just mentioned. All right. So that's the first strategy for you. All right. Here's the second strategy. Figure out what you can do on a daily and weekly basis to get to that larger goal. In other words, think incrementally. I happen to run on the weekends and as much as I can, and I try to put a few miles in. I don't pride myself on being like a marathon runner or anything like that. But the point is, the miles that I do run, there are times when I start, I feel like trash with the first few steps. I'm tired, I'm out of breath, and I'm thinking, whoa, I'm trying to run how many miles today? And I'm already tired literally in the first 30 seconds. So what I want to tell you is that when I'm having those experiences, I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I may look at a tree down the path that I'm running down, and I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to get to that tree. And then when I get to that tree, I say, hey, I'm going to just run to that curve in the trail. And then I get to that curve in the trail, and I just keep setting goals, small, tiny goals. But if I think about the entire big picture, that can be very, very deflating. So I know that I just told you to write down your big goal, but as you're going about your daily life, try to have these small incremental goals that are doable. So figure out, what can you be doing on a daily basis? Maybe you could practice for 15 minutes. Maybe you can hop online and maybe, share your music profiles or your social media sites or what have you. Maybe you say, hey, on a weekly basis, I'm going to go out to various venues around town and maybe network with other musicians. Or maybe you decide that you're going to go online and look at some information related to the music business, or grab a book and just start reading a few chapters. The point is, if you do this incrementally over the course of a year, and of course you want to make sure that these incremental things line up towards your big goal, these things can actually wind up helping you hit that larger goal, or at least putting you very, very, very close to it. And let me go into my last thought about this here. These individual goals, as I was saying, make sure that they're taking you down the path towards your large goal. So, and this is something that I suffer from, which is being distracted. So for instance, there are times where I'm, let's say I'm working with one of my artists, and I'll sit down and I'll create a website for this artist, which is perfectly fine. And there are times in the past, I have to admit, I get lost in doing small detailed things. I'm looking at the graphics, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But meanwhile, I've yet to create one song for my artist. I've yet to figure out, the genre that the artist is going to work in or kind of shine in. And I realized that me spending all of this time working, let's say, on a website without any music, without any idea of a fan base, is a massive waste of time. So if I were to work on that website, I can get up an hour later and say, yeah, man, I put in work on that music dream. But did that specific thing lead me to the big goal? Is that thing going to actually have results at the end of the year? Well, no, if I don't even have tracks ready to go. So my point being is that as you decide on your weekly and your daily goals, or these things that you're working towards, make sure that these things are actually moving the needle. Make sure they're having an impact on your music career. Practicing, yeah, that's going to absolutely have an impact on your music career. Networking, Absolutely. But don't spend all your time online just researching or just looking up information or looking at other artists and looking at what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with taking a look at the competition out there. But if you spend all of your time just sitting there thinking and pondering, but not actually doing anything that will push your career forward, you're going to get to the end of the year and you're going to feel very discouraged by the fact that you did not get anything done. And guess what? As I mentioned earlier, you are liable to just stop. You think, you know what? I'm putting all this energy in and nothing's happening. So again, you have to make sure that these things are actually taking you, even if it's very slow, towards that big goal that we talked about. All right, and let me give you my final thought or final tip for today. And this tip is brought to you by us, the Swim team here at Success with Music. If you would, just go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. We really appreciate you guys following us, and do us a bigger favor and share the podcast. We can do this more and more often by you simply sharing the podcast and making it available to other people, and we can grow our audience, and it gives you a bigger platform because we also like to feature music from other artists and things like that. So by all means, we want you to connect with us, send us questions, share the show, you name it. And I highly recommend, if you would, just go over to successwithmusic.com and you'll see our main website. You'll see some of the past episodes and you can connect with us on there, send us questions, you name it. So again, check out successwithmusic.com. All right, so let me give you my final thought for today. And I know today's episode is a bit short, but again, I don't have my usual setup. So, just bear with me here. But I'm hoping that what I've provided is providing some value for you today. So I said at the very beginning of the show, there's a very real chance you can take what I'm saying for granted, right? I mentioned having a big goal. I mentioned, having incremental steps that you're taking for your goal or reaching your goal. And then I mentioned that you need to analyze whether or not those incremental steps are actually moving you in the right direction. Here's the thing. As I said before, you may hear this advice and think, oh, great, this guy is not saying anything revolutionary. You're right. I'm not saying anything revolutionary. But here's the thing. These common sense tips can actually have a significant impact if you simply do it. Think about it this way. If I were to take you into a time machine and we were to go back 1 year from right now that you're listening to this podcast, imagine that you have been songwriting for a full year. Look, again, we're going back in time. So imagine you jump back 1 year and you're songwriting every day or every week. Imagine you're networking. Imagine you're working in your craft. Imagine you got those lessons. Imagine you did some collabs with people. Imagine that you got your music up online. Where would you be today if 1 year ago you did some of the things that I mentioned today? Having those incremental goals, having those things happen on a weekly basis. You would probably agree that you'll be a lot further along in your career if 1 year ago you made some very small changes to what you do or did on a daily basis. All right. So the point being is don't dismiss what I'm telling you today thinking that it's just nothing. I'm telling you that this will have an impact on you. So as we get to the end of 2018, we're not there yet. Think about where you want to be there. Make those incremental decisions right now. You don't need to have to wait till the brand new year rolls around. Start making those changes right now. I said this before, and I'll say it to you guys again. If you ever were to follow information that you hear from, let's say, a Bill Gates or an Oprah Winfrey or a Warren Buffett or some of these huge billionaires out there and successful people, Jeff Bezos and things like that, when you hear these people talk about their success and how they did it and their path to success, a lot of times you don't hear anything revolutionary. You hear simple things like hard work, belief in yourself, going after it, not giving up. They don't really give you any special secrets that you never heard of, but somehow or another, these people are incredibly successful. So make sure that you take these things